computing center to make AI green. So first of all, and if we take green AI as the motive, first of all, what you need is an energy efficient HPC system where AI jobs can run. And I'd like to present the systems that we have here. So we run our flagship supercomputer. It's called HORECA. It's part of the National High Performance Computing Alliance that I'll say something about in a second. It was procured 4 years ago, actually. So the procurement started 6 years ago. And it's a GPU machine, which back then was adventurous. And it turned out to be a good choice. So by now it has, I think, more than 800 GPUs of different generations of NVIDIA. And the main thing about this system is that it's energy efficient because it's warm water cooled. Yeah, so this was also introduced, and it's essentially a point of the building infrastructure. So there's warm water cooling. The water that goes in is 42 degrees Celsius. The water coming out is about 47 degrees Celsius. So even in Karlsruhe, which can get hot in summer on most days of the year, like 350 days of the year, we can use free cooling, right? So there are no ventilators going, which makes that system energy efficient. So the original system was number 13 in the Green 500 list. For those who don't know, that's the list of the most energy efficient supercomputers in the world, like the 500 most powerful ones, and among them the most energy efficient ones. And recently, 1 year ago, we've updated the system, and that update entered the Green 500 at position 6. And again, the reason is that it's a GPU machine and it's warm water cooled. Right? That system is accessible via a proposal. I'll tell you something about that. That's kind of the advertising part of it. We estimate that by now, more than 30% of the compute jobs on the system are actually AI jobs. This was not the case 4 years ago when the system entered production. A minor system that I mentioned briefly is called BW Unicluster. The name is not as great as the other one. It's a state system and serves the national lab part of KIT. It's also becoming a GPU system by now. So that system now has more than 110 GPUs and is accessible for everybody in the Helmholtz part of KIT and in the state of Baden-Württemberg. And I hope that all of you know that we operate currently half of the Helmholtz AI computing resources in Karlsruhe. Again, the model for us is, and I'll say something about this later, that we are looking for a low entrance barrier for AI research. This is self-sign-on, and you can use those resources pretty much. There are other things here as well. I would also advertise the large-scale data facility. Currently, we have 24 petabytes for data. So if you have large data and you cannot use, store it everywhere, somewhere else, then, talk to us. And a fast network connection based on our history of research with CERN in Switzerland. And that picture on the top right is maybe the direction where all of this is going. So the strategy of, I would say, most national HPC centers used to be in the lower left corner of that triangle, pretty much HPC. We've always been more data intensive, but all centers now acknowledge the existence of AI and the fact that it's actually data intensive computing. And the arrow shows that we're moving more into the center of that triangle. Maybe something about national high performance computing and the start of the advertising. For those who don't know that, I would want you to be aware of this, what your possibilities are in Germany actually to do AI training and inference on big machines. The HPC in Germany is organized in this pyramid that you see here. So there's tier 1. These are 3 centers, one of them Jülich. There are 9 topical centers organized in the National High Performance Computing Alliance, and there are many tier 3 local centers. And NHR now is a new funding scheme, started in 2021, is funded for 10 years, so reasonably sustainable funding. The only downside is that it's only for researchers from German universities, but if you have somebody or yourself with a university affiliation, use that and you can access those machines. There is also a lot of support around the infrastructure. So if you need help, improving and making your codes green in the sense that you make them more efficient, then you're welcome to use that. That's kind of my maybe advertisement slide and maybe controversial or where I would like to have a discussion. I call it nobody needs a GPU cluster in the basement. So first of all, this is a task for the computing centers to acknowledge that there are specific needs of the AI community. but also for the AI community to realize that the computing centers are addressing this. Yeah, so for instance, again, not going through all of this, you can access most HPC systems in Germany, and especially ours, through Jupyter Hubs, right? You can even use the batch system, so the queuing system out of the Jupyter Hub. We have low entry barriers. For example, I mentioned, self-registration in HAICO. We have an AI fast track project on HORECA, which is just one line, one form that you need to fill. And then we help you to actually write larger proposals, because this is proposal-based in the end. But you can get up to 1 million GPU hours, for example, in a large project on HORECA. We also have models that allow for investments. For example, in the state of Baden-Württemberg, we look for a fair share model where one can invest into these systems. And I'll say something about this, why you should invest. And you, for example, get a certain portion of your hardware immediately, and the rest of it, you can also scale more than to your investment. Why should you care? One thing is energy efficiency. Most GPU clusters in the basement are air-cooled. Warm water-cooled systems are 30 to 40% more energy efficient, right? Because you don't have the fans that are going. You get the support. And one issue that is often neglected is security and dual use. You know that GPUs are by now a restricted good internationally. Historically, supercomputers are dual use goods, so they need to be treated partially as weapons. And maybe one more support thing, again, low-level support. If you want to get in touch with the National High Performance Computing Analysis, there is a monthly online Q&A where you can just ask questions and get in touch. And then finally, at the computing center here in Karlsruhe, we're not just operating all of these infrastructures. We have a large part that does research and everything in between infrastructures and research, and maybe highlight 2 projects of what we do here. We took part in the MLPerf competition that probably most of you know in 2022. It's now a standard benchmark competition on scaling AI jobs and also making them energy efficient. And in the 2022 competition, the local unit here in Karlsruhe, together with the unit in Jülich, took part, and we were only beaten by NVIDIA and beat the other ones that participated. And another thing that I would like to mention, the German Weather Service, which is close by here, it's located in Offenbach, actually does its AI training together with us. So it does it on the infrastructures that we have, and we work with them to get an AI weather forecast, which used to be a beloved multi-scale, multi-physics simulation on supercomputers. So my heart is bleeding, but it's going to be substituted by AI pretty soon. So with that, thank you very much.